Welcome to the Baseface Network.
Years ago, the history of the communist insurgency in Malaysia ended by Tunku Abdul Rahman peacefully through an agreement with the Communist Party of Malaya (CPM) in Thailand. In 1930, Communist Party of Malaya was formed under the cover of the Communist International Comintern agent for Southeast Asia, Ho Chi Minh of Vietnam. After the Malayan People's Anti-Japanese Army, MPAJA was forced to disband after the war in 1945, the CPM legally continued in Malaya as a political party.
Now I will explain on the reason why communist insurgency happened. The reason communist insurgency happened is when the case of 3 European managers and planters in Perak been murdered that makes the situation worse and uncontrolled by the British that forced the British to declare a state of emergency or hereafter emergency. The CPM, however, denied the charge and countered that the emergency was just a ploy. CPM might involved in the murder tragedy make a huge debated from Sir Edward Gans. Because of the act of subversive and radicalism from the CPM, the British position in Malaysia was threatened. So they agreed to the declaration of emergency made on 16 June 1948 without enough evidence. Launching guerrilla and mass media exploitation is the first action made by CPM, and the cause of this is why many of the public and people have lost their lives.
Several strategies have been made by the British against CPM. Firstly, after 1 month of declaration, the British decided to ban the CPM organisation on 23 July 1948 that had a big impact on how radical and subversive the CPM was toward Malaya. The extension of the law gave more power to the police and military to arrest and detain persons suspected of subversive activity. Second act made by the British is that the defense and security divisions were enhanced by the British to refrain from their attacks. As a result, 10,000 soldiers were deployed to guard areas such as tin mines and rubber estate. The Griffins and Melby mission, which took place in March and August respectively, drew international attention to the Malayan emergency. The British enlisted the help of Commonwealth nations, including Australia and New Zealand. Support from the United States, on the other hand, became a cause of domestic issue in 1950, and other power also can be obtained in this phase. Other than that, the CPM's movement were also restricted by the British during emergencies. Commissioner Sir Henry Journey carried out the Bridge Plan from 1948 to 1951 with Lieutenant Colonel Bridge enforcing it. The success of the tactic has effectively shut off the citizenry source of food, rice and plant, and finance as desired by the CPM. The Squatted Resettlement Scheme were instituted with the intention to cut off the population from the influence and threat imposed by the communists. This is not something that can be treated as discrete and separate from the global financial crisis. On the contrary, it has been intimately connected with it, particularly through the impact of financial speculation on world trade prices of food.
Guerrilla movement in the huge communist insurgency happened in Malaya. The imperialist power position was jeopardized in Malaya, where the CPM attempted to enlist the cooperation of the media to aid their resistance and movement. Villagers, laborers, women and indigenous people are their main targets. In early 1950s, the movement began to the Malay-Thai border, where it gained the trust of locals and indigenous populations such as Senoi, Temia, Semai and others.
Chi Pen, the leader of CPN, stated that this is crucial because they can learn the ins and outs of the jungle navigation as well as obtain food supplies with this method. Here, where the British began the bridge plan, other attacks subsequently were made at various points across the Malaysian border. This also involves building camps at intervals along the routes in order to facilitate the flow of men and supplies.
Rashid Maidin, who was a senior leader of the Communist Party of Malaya, stated that 3,000 to 4,000 indigenous peoples that were influenced by the CPM have been caught and get offered better education, living conditions and free medical checkups. This is a psychological war other than an armed war where to win the hearts of the public not to cooperate with the CPM. The CPM also used the women's movement to carry out ambush operations, influence trade unions and infiltration. The British realized how essential women's participation was, and the communists tried to sway this group with varied propaganda.
On July 31st, 1960, Tunku Abdul Rahman was successful in declaring the end of the state of emergency. However, relics of the CPM can still be found in some areas, like the Malayan-Thai border. Tunku Abdul Rahman's fortitude in negotiating with Chin Peng, the leader of the Communist Party, at the Baling English School in Kedah during the time. The British feared this at the time because they were frightened that Chin Peng's statements would influence Tunku Abdul Rahman. Tunku's attitude was sanctioned by the British, but Tunku insisted on organizing a Baling meeting for the sake of the Malays. According to Tun Muhammad Hanif, until 1954, 9,914 communist terrorists were effectively destroyed and 4,034 security personnel were injured or died. Now, fast forward to December 2nd, 1989. The CPM agreed to sign a peace deal in Thailand with Malaysia. Tunku was intelligent in his efforts to negotiate rather than go to war, and he was able to spare many lives as a result of his efforts. The CPM is no longer able to form a communist government in Malaysia. Until this day, even Chin Peng ashes are not acceptable in Malaysia. Professor Datuk Dr. Teo Kok Siong, who is Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia's Institute of Ethnic Studies Principal Research Fellow, said that people had to fully understand the extent of the damage inflicted by CPM led by Chin Peng. Thank you very much.
In a conclusion, to summarize all of those, we can recap that the Communist Party of Malaya (CPM) was formed under the cover of the Communist International Comintern Agent for Southeast Asia in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. CPM might involve in the Madura tragedy make a huge debate from the Sir Edward Jan. The British enlisted the help of Commonwealth nations including Australia and New Zealand. This is a psychological war other than an armed war where to win the hearts of the public not to cooperate with the CPM. Squatter resettlement, a scheme were instituted with the intention to cut off the population from the influence and threats imposed by the communists. The British realized how essential women's participation was, and the communists tried to sway this group with varied propaganda. Tunku Abdul Rahman's fortitude in negotiating with Chin Peng, the leader of the Communist Party, at the Baling English School in Kedah during the time. the CPM is no longer able to form a communist government in Malaysia.